He divorced her to save his billions. She left pregnant. He never knew. 7 years later, he's broke, alone, and finds them by accident. The little girl has his eyes. But what Elena says next destroys him and changes everything he thought he knew about that divorce. Before we begin, drop a comment to tell us where you're watching from and when the story ends. Do not forget to rate us from 1 to 10 and subscribe for more stories like this. Now sit back and enjoy every detail. Nathan Hale was untouchable, a self-made billionaire who built an empire from nothing. But when the lawsuits came, when the vultures circled his fortune, he made a choice. He divorced Elena, the only woman he ever loved, to shield her from the collapse he saw coming. It was supposed to be temporary, a legal maneuver, a sacrifice wrapped in paperwork. But Elena walked away and never looked back. What Nathan didn't know was that she left with more than a broken heart. She left carrying his daughter. Years passed. Nathan rebuilt his empire, but the penthouse felt like a tomb. He searched for Elena everywhere, hired investigators, traced dead ends. She had vanished. Then the second collapse came. This time, there was no recovery. The fortune he fought so hard to protect crumbled to dust. Bankrupt. Alone. Nathan lost everything. And that's when he found her again. In a small town, living a quiet life, raising a little girl with his eyes. But what Elena tells him next breaks him. Why did a man who had everything choose to lose the one thing that mattered? Nathan Hale didn't divorce Elena because he stopped loving her. He divorced her because he loved her too much. When the lawsuits threatened to swallow his empire whole, when every asset he owned was about to be seized, he saw only one way to protect her. Cut her loose, make her a stranger on paper, save her from the wreckage. But here's what haunts him. Did she know? Did she understand it was to save her? Or did she think he just didn't want her anymore? And Elena? Why did she disappear so completely? Why didn't she fight for him? Why didn't she tell him about the baby? Was it pride? Was it pain? Or was it something else entirely? Because when Nathan finds her years later, when he's lost everything and she's built a life without him, she's not angry. She's not bitter. She's calm. Too calm. What did Elena know that Nathan didn't? And why does she look at him now, like she's been waiting? The truth isn't what you think. The divorce wasn't the end of their story. It was the beginning of something neither of them saw coming. Nathan Hale wasn't born into wealth. He was born into struggle. He built his empire the hard way. 18-hour days, ruthless negotiations, a mind that never stopped calculating. By 35, he was worth billions. But the higher he climbed, the lonelier it became. Then he met Elena, not at a gala, not at some exclusive event, at a bookstore. She was reaching for the same philosophy book he wanted. They both laughed, started talking, and for the first time in years, Nathan forgot about markets and mergers. She didn't know who he was, and that's exactly why he fell. Elena was a teacher, grounded, real. She saw through the armor he wore in boardrooms. When she looked at him, she didn't see a billionaire. She saw a man who worked too hard and smiled too little. Their wedding was small, intimate. She didn't want the spectacle. She wanted him. And for a while, Nathan had everything. The empire, the woman he loved, a life that finally felt like it meant something. But here's the thing about empires. They're always under attack. The lawsuit started quietly. A disgruntled partner, an old business rival with deep pockets and a vendetta. Then another suit, and another. Suddenly, Nathan wasn't just defending his company. He was defending everything he'd ever built. He didn't tell Elena how bad it was. Not at first. He'd come home late, kiss her forehead, tell her everything was fine. But she noticed the tension in his shoulders, the way he stared at nothing during dinner, the phone calls he took in the other room. She asked him once, "Nathan, what's wrong?" He smiled. Nothing I can't handle. But he was drowning, and the vultures were circling. His lawyers laid it out cold. If he lost these cases, they wouldn't just take the company. They'd take everything, the houses, the accounts. They'd come after her, freeze her assets, drag her into depositions, turn her life into a legal nightmare. Nathan looked at the woman he loved and saw her future being ripped apart because of him. So he made a choice. He filed for divorce. No warning, no explanation she could understand. Just cold, clinical paperwork that severed them legally. Elena was devastated, confused. She begged him to talk to her, to tell her what was happening. But Nathan stayed silent, because if he told her the truth, she'd refuse. She'd fight to stay, and that would destroy her. So he let her think the worst. He let her believe he didn't love her anymore. It was the cruelest kindness he'd ever given. And Elena, heartbroken and alone, did the only thing she could. She left. What Nathan didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that Elena was 6 weeks pregnant. She found out 2 days after the divorce papers arrived, stood in that bathroom staring at the test, and realized she was carrying the child of a man who'd just thrown her away. She could have told him. Maybe she should have, but she didn't. Because if Nathan didn't want her, why would he want their baby? The call came at 2 a.m. Nathan's lead attorney, voice tight. "We need to meet, now." By dawn, Nathan was sitting in a conference room staring at documents that made his blood run cold. His rivals weren't just coming for his company anymore. They were coming for everything, and they'd found his weakness, Elena. The strategy was brutal and simple. If they couldn't break Nathan in the boardroom, they'd break him at home. Freeze her accounts. Tie her up in legal battles. Drag her name through depositions. Make her life hell until Nathan had no choice but to surrender. His lawyer said it plainly. They know you love her, and they're going to use that to destroy you both. Nathan sat there in silence. The empire he built, the woman he loved. He couldn't save both. So he chose her. But saving her meant losing her. The plan was cold, clinical. He'd divorce Elena immediately, sever all legal ties, make her untouchable. The moment she was no longer his wife, she'd no longer be a target. It was the only way to protect her, but there was a cost. He couldn't tell her why, because if Elena knew the truth, she'd refuse the divorce. She'd insist on staying, on fighting beside him, and that would put her directly in the crosshairs. So Nathan made a decision that would haunt him for years. He would make her hate him. The divorce papers were filed within 48 hours. No warning, no conversation, just a courier at the door with documents that shattered Elena's world. She called him immediately, voice shaking. "Nathan, what is this?" "It's a divorce, Elena." "Why? What happened? Talk to me." "There's nothing to talk about." She came to his office. He refused to see her. She waited in the lobby for 3 hours until security escorted her out. Finally, she cornered him at the penthouse, their home, the place where they'd built a life together. "Look at me," she said. "Please, just tell me what I did wrong." Nathan stood by the window, back turned. He couldn't look at her, because if he did, he'd break. "You didn't do anything wrong." "Then why?" "Because this isn't working." Silence. Elena's voice cracked. "You don't mean that." "I do." He forced the words out, each one a knife. "I made a mistake, Elena. I thought this would work, but it doesn't. You're not what I need. Nathan, I don't love you anymore." The lie tasted like poison. Elena stood there, trembling, tears streaming down her face. "You're lying. Sign the papers." "Nathan, please." "Sign the papers and get out." He heard her sob, heard her footsteps as she walked to the door, heard it close behind her, and Nathan stood there, staring at his reflection in the glass, hating himself more than he'd ever hated anyone. He told himself it was temporary. Once the legal war was over, once she was safe, he'd find her. Explain everything. Beg for forgiveness. But Elena didn't wait. She disappeared that night, packed a single bag, left the penthouse, the city, the life they'd built. And she took something with her Nathan would never know about. She was 8 weeks pregnant. 2 days after the divorce papers arrived, Elena stared at a pregnancy test in a gas station bathroom. 2 lines, clear as day. She was carrying Nathan's child. For a moment, she thought about calling him, telling him. Maybe this would change everything. But then she remembered his words. "You're not what I need. I don't love you anymore." If he didn't want her, why would he want their baby? So Elena made her own decision. She vanished, changed her number, left no forwarding address, started over in a small town where no one knew her name. And 9 months later, she gave birth to a little girl, Mia, with Nathan's dark eyes and stubborn chin, the daughter he would never meet. Nathan thought saving Elena would save everything. He was wrong. The divorce didn't stop the vultures. If anything, it made them hungrier. They saw weakness, saw a man willing to sacrifice his marriage to protect his assets, and they tore into him with everything they had. The lawsuits multiplied, partners turned, allies vanished. Every day brought a new betrayal, a new fire to put out. Nathan fought like a man possessed. 18-hour days became 20, then 22. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating. The penthouse that once felt too big now felt like a tomb. But none of it mattered, because the one thing he was fighting for, Elena, was already gone. He tried to find her, called her number, disconnected, went to their penthouse, empty, visited her school. She'd resigned, no forwarding information. It was like she'd erased herself from existence. Nathan hired investigators, gave them unlimited resources. Find her. I don't care what it costs. They searched for months, chased leads across 3 states. Every time they got close, the trail went cold. Elena had disappeared completely, and Nathan couldn't understand why. He told himself she needed space, that once things settled, she'd reach out. They'd talk. He'd explain everything. She'd understand, but she never called. Meanwhile, his empire crumbled. The final blow came 18 months after the divorce, a hostile takeover, boardroom coup. Nathan walked into a meeting and walked out with nothing. No company, no fortune, just debt and lawyers circling like sharks. The media had a field day. Billionaire Nathan Hale loses everything, from billions to bankruptcy. And then the rumors started. Someone leaked a story. Anonymous source. Claimed Elena had been planning to leave him all along, that she'd married him for money, waited for the right moment, and walked away with a settlement. It was a lie, a complete fabrication. But lies travel faster than truth. Gold digger wife walks away while empire burns. Did Elena Hale use her husband? Nathan saw the headlines, read the comments, and for the first time, he felt something close to relief. Because if people thought Elena left him for money, maybe she'd stay hidden. Maybe she'd stay safe. Even as his world collapsed, he protected her story. But what Nathan didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was what Elena's life had become. 2,000 miles away, Elena was building something Nathan never could. A home. Not a penthouse, not an empire. Just a small apartment in a quiet town where nobody knew her name. She worked 2 jobs, taught English during the day, waited tables 3 nights a week, saved every dollar. Because now, she wasn't alone. She was a mother. Mia came into the world on a rainy October morning. 6 pounds, 4 ounces. Dark eyes that looked exactly like her father's. Elena held her daughter and made a promise. You will never feel unwanted. You will always be enough. The things Nathan had made her feel. She would never let Mia feel them. Mia grew up in a home filled with love, books stacked on shelves, homemade meals, bedtime stories. Elena gave her everything that mattered, everything except the truth about her father. When Mia asked, and she did ask, Elena kept it simple. Your father and I couldn't be together, but that has nothing to do with you. You are loved, completely. Mia seemed to accept that, for a while. But as she got older, the questions got harder. Does he know about me? Would he want to meet me? Why did he leave us? Elena never badmouthed Nathan, never told Mia the cruel things he'd said, never explained the divorce, because despite everything, Elena still believed something. Nathan had loved her once. And people don't just stop loving. Something had happened, something he wouldn't tell her. And maybe, somewhere deep down, Elena wanted to believe that if Nathan knew about Mia, if he knew what he'd walked away from, it would have changed everything. But he didn't know, and Elena made sure of it. Years passed. Nathan's investigators kept searching, fewer resources now, smaller team, but he never stopped looking. He'd lost the empire, lost his reputation, lost everything, but he never stopped looking for her. The media moved on, found new scandals, new billionaires to devour. Nathan became a ghost, living in a modest apartment, consulting work to pay the bills, a shadow of the man he used to be. But every night he'd sit by the window and wonder, where is she? Is she okay? Does she hate me? He never remarried, never even dated. Because how could he? Elena was the only woman he'd ever loved, and he'd destroyed her to save her. What Nathan didn't know was that Elena thought about him too. Late at night, after Mia was asleep, she'd look at old photos she should have thrown away. Nathan smiling, Nathan laughing, the man she'd fallen in love with in that bookstore, before everything fell apart. And she'd wonder, did he ever regret it? Did he ever look for me? Does he ever think about what we lost? The answer to all three was yes, but neither of them knew that. Two people, two lives, moving in parallel, one searching, one hiding, both still in love with a memory. And then, 7 years after the divorce, fate intervened. Nathan found her. 7 years after the divorce, Nathan Hale had nothing left. The empire was gone. The penthouse sold to pay debts. The fortune that once seemed infinite had evaporated like smoke. He lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in a town he'd never heard of before bankruptcy forced him there. Worked freelance consulting, drove a 10-year-old sedan. He was invisible, and maybe that's why he didn't expect to see her. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Nathan was at a grocery store, something he never did in his old life. Pushing a cart, comparing prices like everyone else. And then he saw her, Elena. Same dark hair, same quiet grace, but different somehow. Tired, older, real in a way that took his breath away. She was in the produce section, reaching for apples. Nathan froze. 7 years of searching, 7 years of wondering, and there she was, 20 feet away. His first instinct was to run to her, to call her name. To explain everything he should have explained years ago. But then he saw the little girl, small, maybe 6 or 7, dark curls pulled into a ponytail, holding Elena's hand. Nathan watched as Elena crouched down, said something that made the girl giggle, then lifted her into the cart. And that's when the little girl looked in his direction. Nathan's heart stopped. Because those eyes. He knew those eyes. He saw them every morning in the mirror. Dark, deep, the same shape, the same intensity. The little girl looked exactly like him. Nathan stood there, frozen, as the truth crashed into him like a freight train. Elena had been pregnant. She'd been carrying his child when he destroyed their marriage. When he told her he didn't love her. When he made her believe she wasn't enough. She'd been 8 weeks pregnant. And she never told him. Nathan's legs almost gave out. He gripped the shopping cart to steady himself. The little girl was still looking at him, curious, innocent. Then Elena turned. Their eyes met across the produce section. For a moment, neither of them moved. 7 years. 7 years of silence, of distance, of unanswered questions. And now, here they were, in a grocery store, with a daughter Nathan never knew existed. Elena's face went pale. She whispered something to the little girl, who looked away. Then Elena straightened, grabbed her cart, and started walking toward the exit. Elena... She didn't stop. Elena, wait! She kept walking. Nathan abandoned his cart and followed her into the parking lot. Please, please, stop. Elena reached her car, a modest sedan, buckled the little girl into the back seat, closed the door. Then she turned to face him, and Nathan saw something in her eyes he didn't expect. Not anger, not hatred, exhaustion. What do you want, Nathan? His voice broke. Is she mine? Silence. Elena looked at him for a long moment, and Nathan saw the answer before she said it. Her name is Mia. How old? She just turned 7. The math was simple, brutal. Elena had found out she was pregnant right after the divorce, and she'd chosen not to tell him. Nathan felt like he was drowning. Why didn't you? Because you didn't want me. Elena's voice was steady, calm, but underneath it, Nathan heard years of pain. You looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't enough, that you didn't love me. So why would I think you'd want our child? Elena, You threw me away, Nathan, like I was nothing. Like everything we built meant nothing. I was trying to protect you. By destroying me, the words hit like a slap. Nathan's voice cracked. They were coming after you, my enemies. They were going to ruin your life to get to me. The divorce was the only way to keep you safe. Then you should have told me. Elena's composure finally broke. You should have trusted me. Instead, you made me believe I was worthless. That 7 years of marriage meant nothing to you. Do you have any idea what that did to me? Nathan couldn't speak. Elena wiped her eyes, took a breath, steadied herself. I found out I was pregnant 2 days after you served me papers. I stood in a bathroom and realized I was carrying the child of a man who just told me he didn't love me anymore. Elena, I almost called you, almost told you. But then I thought, if he doesn't want me, why would he want our baby? Nathan felt something break inside him. So I left, started over, and I raised her, alone. She looked back at the car where Mia was playing with a stuffed animal in the back seat. She's smart, funny. She asks about you sometimes, and I don't know what to tell her, because how do I explain that her father chose his empire over us? I chose you. Nathan's voice was raw. I gave up everything to protect you. I lost the company anyway, lost the fortune, lost my reputation, all of it. And I'd do it again if it meant you were safe. But I wasn't safe. Elena's voice rose. I was broke, alone, pregnant, working 2 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. You want to know what protecting me looked like? It looked like me crying myself to sleep wondering what I did wrong. It looked like me explaining to our daughter why her father doesn't want to meet her. I didn't know, because I didn't tell you. They stood there in the parking lot, 2 people who'd loved each other once, torn apart by secrets and sacrifice. Finally, Elena spoke, quieter now. You broke my heart, Nathan, and I had to put it back together while growing a human being inside me, while bringing her into the world, while raising her without you. She opened her car door. I don't hate you. I did for a while, but I don't anymore. I don't know who you are now. Nathan's voice was barely a whisper. Can I meet her? Elena looked at Mia through the window, then back at Nathan. I don't know. Please. She doesn't know you, and she's been through enough confusion about why her father isn't around. I want to know her. I want to be in her life. It's not about what you want anymore. Elena's voice was firm. It's about what's best for her. And I need to figure out if that includes you. She got in the car. Nathan stood there, helpless, as the engine started. Elena rolled down the window. One last look. You wanted to protect me, Nathan, but you never asked what I needed. You just decided. And that decision cost us 7 years. It cost Mia a father. She drove away. And Nathan stood in that parking lot, watching the daughter he never knew disappear down the street. The greatest fortune he'd ever had. And he'd lost it before he even knew it existed. 3 days after the grocery store, Elena called. Nathan had been sitting in his apartment, staring at his phone, replaying every moment in that parking lot. Every word, every look. When her name appeared on the screen, his hands shook. Hello? We need to talk. Elena's voice was calm, measured. Can you meet me? Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. There's a park on Maple Street. I'll be there. Come alone, Nathan. Mia won't be there. This is just us. Nathan arrived early, sat on a bench facing the playground, watched families, fathers pushing daughters on swings, mothers wiping ice cream from small faces, all the moments he'd missed. When Elena arrived, she looked different. Not the broken woman from 7 years ago. Not even the exhausted mother from the grocery store. She looked whole. She sat beside him, kept a careful distance between them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Elena broke the silence. I knew. Nathan turned to her. What? I knew why you divorced me. Her voice was soft, steady. Not at first, but eventually I figured it out. Nathan felt something collapse inside him. How? Because I knew you. Elena looked straight ahead. I knew the man I married, and that man didn't just stop loving me overnight. Something happened, something you wouldn't tell me. She paused. I hired a lawyer, 6 months after I left, asked them to look into your company, the lawsuits, the timeline. Everything lined up. Nathan couldn't breathe. Elena continued. The divorce was filed the same week your enemies made their move, the same week they started targeting your assets. It wasn't coincidence. You were protecting me. Then why? Nathan's voice cracked. Why didn't you come back? Elena finally looked at him, and what Nathan saw in her eyes wasn't anger. It was grief. Because you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. The words hung in the air like smoke. You made a decision for me, Nathan, not with me. You decided what I could handle, what I deserved to know. You took away my choice. I was trying to save you. I didn't need saving. Elena's voice was firm but not unkind. I needed my husband. I needed you to look at me and say, we're in trouble, I'm scared, but we'll face this together. Instead, you shut me out, made me believe I was the problem. Nathan felt tears burn his eyes. I thought if I told you, you'd stay, and they'd destroy you too. Maybe they would have. Elena nodded. Maybe you were right. Maybe the divorce protected me legally. She turned to face him fully. But it destroyed me in every other way. Silence. I was pregnant, Nathan. Alone. Terrified. And I had to choose. Do I tell the man who just broke my heart that I'm carrying his child? Do I give him the chance to reject us both? Her voice wavered for the first time. Or do I protect my daughter from ever feeling what I felt, from ever wondering if her father wanted her? I chose her. Nathan's tears fell freely now. I would have wanted her. God, Elena, I would have wanted both of you. I know. Elena's own eyes were wet. I know that now, but I didn't know it then. And by the time I figured out the truth, Mia was 2 years old. We had a life, a small life, but it was ours. And I didn't know if bringing you back would heal her or hurt her. She wiped her eyes. So I stayed hidden. And I let you search. Because I didn't know what the right answer was. Nathan looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman who'd carried his child alone, who'd built a life from nothing, who'd protected their daughter from the chaos he'd created. "You're stronger than I ever was." Elena smiled sadly. "I didn't have a choice." They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Nathan spoke. "What happens now?" Elena took a deep breath. "Mia deserves to know her father. Not the billionaire, not the man from the headlines. Just you, the real you. I want that. But it has to be slow, careful. She's 7, Nathan. She doesn't understand empire or sacrifice or corporate warfare. She just knows her daddy wasn't there." Nathan nodded. "I'll do whatever you want, whatever she needs." Elena studied him. "This isn't a second chance for us, Nathan. You understand that, right?" The words hit like a blade. "I loved you." Elena's voice was gentle, almost kind. "I loved you so much it nearly destroyed me. But that love lived in a different life, a different version of us. Elena, I've spent 7 years healing, building a life where I'm not waiting for someone to save me or leave me, where I'm enough, just as I am." She looked at him with something close to compassion. "I can't go back to being the woman who needed you, because I don't need you anymore." Nathan felt the truth of it settle in his chest like stone. "What about Mia?" "Mia can have a father, should have a father. But you and me?" Elena shook her head. "We're not a family, Nathan. We're 2 people who loved each other once and made a child. That's all we can be now." Nathan wanted to argue, to say they could rebuild, to promise he'd changed. But he looked at Elena, really looked at her, and saw the truth. She had changed. She didn't need him to complete her, didn't need his money or his protection or his love. She'd found something he never could: peace. And asking her to give that up, even for him, would be the most selfish thing he could do. So Nathan did something he'd never done before. He let go. "Okay." Elena looked surprised. "Okay? You're right." Nathan's voice was steady now. "I don't get to waltz back in and fix everything. I don't get to be the hero who saves the day." He looked toward the playground. "But if you'll let me, I'd like to know my daughter, not as some big gesture, just slowly, carefully, however she needs me to." Elena nodded. "We can do that." "And you?" Nathan turned to her one last time. "Are you happy?" Elena thought about it, really thought about it. "Yes." She said it like she was surprised. "I am." Nathan smiled, a real smile, sad but genuine. "Good. That's all I ever wanted." They stood. Elena hesitated, then reached out and squeezed his hand. Just once. "You weren't a bad man, Nathan. You were just a man who thought love meant protecting people from pain. But sometimes, the protection hurts more than the pain." She let go. "I'll call you next week. We'll set up a time for you to meet Mia. Just coffee, nothing heavy." "I'll be there." Elena walked toward her car, stopped, looked back. "Nathan?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for trying to save me, even if it broke us both." Then she was gone. And Nathan stood alone in that park, watching her drive away for the second time in his life. But this time was different. This time, he wasn't losing her. Because she was never his to lose. She was her own person, with her own strength, her own life. And the greatest act of love he could give her now wasn't fighting to win her back. It was respecting the woman she'd become without him. Nathan would meet Mia 2 weeks later, at a coffee shop, Elena there, close by. Mia, shy at first, then curious. She asked him questions, what his favorite color was, if he liked dinosaurs, simple things, and Nathan answered. Honestly. No grand gestures, no trying to buy her love, just a father getting to know his daughter. It wasn't a fairy tale. There was no dramatic reunion, No family photo at the end. Just slow, careful steps towards something that might, one day, look like healing. Because that's what real love looks like. Not possession, not control, not even reunion. Just knowing when to hold on, and knowing when to let go, even when it breaks you, especially when it breaks you. Nathan lost his fortune. He lost his empire. He lost the woman he loved. But in losing everything, he learned the one thing his billions could never teach him. Love isn't about what you can protect. It's about what you're willing to release. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is stepping back, even when every part of you wants to hold on. Nathan Hale had everything. Then he had nothing. Then he learned what everything really meant. He divorced her to save her. She disappeared to protect their daughter. And by the time they found each other again, 7 years had passed. 7 years of missed bedtime stories. First steps, first words, birthday candles blown out without him. You can't get those back. No amount of money ever could. Nathan meets Mia now. Once a month, coffee shops, parks, slow and careful. He's not trying to be her hero, just her father. Elena has her own life, her own peace. And Nathan respects that, because real love isn't about getting what you want. It's about wanting what's best for them, even when it's not you. So here's my question for you. If you were Nathan, would you have told Elena the truth? Or would you have protected her the way he did? And if you were Elena, could you forgive him? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know what you think. Do you think he made the right choice? Was the sacrifice worth it? If this story hit you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, because this isn't just Nathan's story. It's about anyone who's ever lost something trying to protect it. Some people lose love chasing money. Others lose money trying to protect love. And sometimes, both are gone before you realize what actually mattered. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.